So we're still talking football, but we're moving to Naples in Italy for our next discussion. Napoli appear to be in hot water with their superstar striker Victor Osimhen, following a couple of puzzling Tik Toks which were posted and since deleted from their official page days ago.
Thank you. You give me penalty. Thanks. I'm not a boy, and I'm not a girl. I'm a coconut. I am the coconut, and I'm a coconut. Coconut. My coconut. Coco. I'm a coconut.
Well, these posts have enraged the Nigerian and his agent, who have since threatened legal action. Napoli were swift to try and mend fences with Osimhen with this statement. And here's what they said. What happened today on Napoli's official profile on the... Okay, here's Napoli's statement now. Wishing to avoid any exploitation of the issue, point out that we never wanted to offend or mock Victor Osimhen, who is a treasure of this club. As proof of that, during the summer training retreat, the club firmly rebuffed every offer that was received for the striker's transfer abroad. Social media, in particular TikTok, has always used an expressive form of language with a light heart and creativity, without wanting to, as in the case of with Osimhen as a protagonist, have any intention of insult or derision. In any case, if Victor perceived any offense towards him, this was not what the club intended. Yeah, and he said Osimhen and his agent Roberta Calenda says what happened today on Napoli's official profile on the TikTok platform is unacceptable. A video mocking Victor was first made public and then but now belatedly deleted, a serious fact that causes very serious damage to the player and adds to the treatment that the boy is suffering in the last period between media trials and fake news. We reserve the right to take legal action and any useful initiative to protect Victor. Well, Osimhen and Napoli have since been in action against Udinese, where Osimhen scored in a 4-0 victory. Joining us to make sense of this all, our football analyst, Brent Sancho. Brent, strange situation this. What's your reaction?
Strange is probably a slight towards it, Lance. It's baffling. I don't think in my time in the sport I've ever seen a club hang out their top player the way that Napoli has, and you know, both videos on TikTok, I think it's about 3 days apart, certainly shows how tone deaf Napoli is. I think there is something a bit greater than just what we saw. I think there's a lot of frustration and of course, beast towards Victor not re-signing his contract. I think there's frustration as to the slow start that Napoli's have in the season. But all of that really, Lance, have shown the true underbelly of what Napoli is about, because the both TikTok videos, despite I have said that, of course, it shows that they're tone deaf, it also shows a huge hint of racism, which is something that has plagued the Italian football game for quite some time.
Yeah, and the fact that his agent, they are now pursuing a legal stance on this, based on your interpretation of what has happened, Brent, you don't think that this is going too far? You think it's an appropriate response from Osimhen and his agent?
I think it's one step towards an appropriate response. You read this statement by the football club. Not one language in that statement was an apology. It basically went on to give an explanation as to why they posted it, and they compounded their wrongness by saying that they didn't sell the player. They didn't sell the player because they didn't get the kind of money they were asking for. They asked him for £175 million. And that's why they didn't sell the player, because if they got that sort of money, they would have sold him. And to me, it just shows, again, the lack of care from the Napoli Football Club. I think, yes, they're going in the right direction by seeking legal comfort. And I think the next step for Victor Osimhen is to leave the club.
Yeah, it's a very, very uncomfortable situation for Osimhen to find himself in. And I think we need to reiterate, Brent, that this is not just a regular player for Napoli. It's a player that has contributed 31 goals last season. He has played a massive part in ensuring the team's success after a long time. So I think recently when he scored against Udinese, he didn't celebrate. That's a fact. He didn't celebrate. And many people we're understanding why he didn't celebrate, Brent, because I feel as if now he appears really, really unhappy. And as you said, the next move is for him to, of course, leave the club. How much of a miss will this be for Napoli?
Well, I want to attach to your statement, Mariah. I think the fact that he stayed this summer, how many times we've seen in football a player pushes for a move out of the club? We've seen so many different circumstances where players refuse to train. In the Sofiane Amrabat situation, of course, he didn't want to train and he wanted it to move. I have so many different examples of that. Osimhen didn't do that. He stayed loyal to the club. As you rightfully said, I mean, we could argue this point. After Diego Maradona, he's probably second or third as the most important Napoli player to put on the blue shirt. And he's brought them success. After all of this, they've still managed to, of course, go down this route that they've been going down. And yes, if he leaves the club, I think Napoli would go back to where they were before he got there, which is probably a fourth, fifth place team within Serie A. Right now, they're a team that obviously will continue to challenge for the Scudetto title. So yes, it's a massive loss, and you hit the nail on the head. For a player that means so much to this football club, they have shown little to no care as it relates to him staying at the football club. Money is not everything all the time. Sometimes a player wants to feel loved, wants to feel cared, and wants to feel that the club is fully behind him. What has transpired over the last couple of days is certainly showing that this club does not care about the contribution that Victor have given to them so far.
And one of the things in football and sport on the whole is the reputation of a club, the respect that a club demands. Now that another player, let's just say a top player looking on, sees the treatment of Osimhen, how does this damage that reputation of the club? Will it be known for a club that players don't want to go to, Brent? Because if you go, you're going to be ridiculed on social media, whether you do your best, the moment you have a bad day.
And let's get this abundantly clear. Yes, they may have fired the person that put out the post, the TikTok post, but there is someone above that person that would say, yeah, send it. And that shows you that is where the club makes decisions. That's where the club shows the kind of international image that they want to portray, because social media is a very powerful outlet that clubs use to A, to promote themselves, and B, and probably most important for clubs, generate revenues. And for you to have someone putting something out there, it's not just one person who's probably fired by now, but it would have been a decision by someone within the club, and it gives you an impression as to the way the club feel and the club think. Again, to bring things into context, when this transpired, yes, it was after the penalty miss, but it was also after a situation, of course, where the club has been struggling and Victor hasn't started the way that he started last season.
Yeah, Brent, I think the clearest indication of Osimhen's state of mind at this stage came in Wednesday's game against Udinese. Of course, he is the designated penalty taker for the Napoli team, and they did win a penalty in that match, and he allowed his teammate Zielinski to take the penalty. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a guy that just wants to do his job, his contracted job, and get on with his business. He certainly does not want to get involved or embroiled in anything else. He may feel every time or any move that he makes in the pitch will be scrutinized, and he does not have the protection of the football club. Yes, the fans may love him, but in terms of the club and their reaction and their actions towards him, remember as well, of course, that this is a player that has also stolen his contract talks with Napoli. Reportedly, that the fact that he wanted a buyout clause, they didn't want to put it in. So yes, they've not been on the same page for quite a couple of weeks, and to obviously compound all of this by doing what they did has made his stay, I am very sure right now, probably one of the worst he's had since he's been at Napoli.
Is there anything that Napoli can do to redeem themselves from here?
I think that's a great question, and I from a player perspective, I think it will be very, very difficult because of all these various moving parts that are transpiring. Of course, the TikTok videos, the fact that he is negotiating the club for a new contract, and then of course he knows that he's wanted across many clubs in Europe. I think it'll be very, very difficult for them to mend bridges. I think most importantly as well, Ricardo, we have not really seen or heard any soundbites coming up from some of the top execs within Napoli. That sort of conversation could start to, of course, lead the pathway back. But I just feel there's too much has been done over a short space of time to fix this issue.
Yeah, and let's take it beyond Italy though, Brent, because we've had several discussions here on the SportsMax Zone regarding racism in Europe on a whole, not just Italy. And sometimes we have felt that UEFA isn't as strident as they need to be with these issues. Is this something that you think maybe UEFA should say something about?
Well, I think the issue is of course, amalgamation of many issues, as you rightfully said, that we've spoken about. And I'm very sure if we check the history books here on the SportsMax Zone, a lot of it came out of Italy. When it comes to racism and that sort of situation. Clearly, UEFA is unwilling to do anything meaningful about racism. Clearly, the Italian Football Association and Serie A is unwilling to do anything about racism. And it seems like every player or any player that goes to play in Italy knows that when they go to this country, they are going to face some sort, or probably will face some sort of undertone of racism or racism within their career at that football club. So, yes, it is an issue. UEFA, as we know, probably should look into it and have, of course, some sort of ways of fixing this thing. But historically, Lance, we know that's not possible. They have not done it, and I think they will continue not to do it.
Yeah, that's certainly unfortunate. Italy, of course, a powerhouse, Brent, as far as European football and UEFA issues are concerned. But thanks for giving your thoughts on this issue. It's a burning issue, and we're going to watch that space and see what happens from here.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.